Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to get to talk to all of you. My name is Jessica Finkbiner, and I am the manager of admissions and student services for a nonprofit called Give Something Back. We work primarily in Southern California, and we serve foster youth, homeless youth, and children of incarcerated parents. I also worked for a foster family agency as a contracted social worker, and I still do that part-time, and I work with, I've been working with foster youth for the past 10 years, and in those past 10 years, it has been made clear to me that it is truly my passion to work with foster youth. And it was about 5 years ago when a foster child came onto my caseload. He was placed in one of the homes that I case managed, and his name was Isaiah, and he was 3. And he came into the foster home with really concerning behaviors. He was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder at the age of 3. He had limited vocabulary. He would scream anytime he heard a loud noise. He was in intensive therapy, and the foster parent that was taking care of him just couldn't handle the behaviors, and she couldn't handle the intensive therapy schedule that Isaiah had. She placed a 7-day notice in on him and his sister, and he was moved, thank goodness, with an aunt. At the time, I was really excited, thinking, okay, great, he's gonna go with his aunt. He has a family member he's with, and I was so excited that he was gonna be with a family member. Unbeknownst to me, this family member also could not keep up with the intensive therapy schedule, could not keep up with the behaviors. And Isaiah was again moved. He was placed back in our foster family agency, now at the age of 4, being in his 5th placement. Isaiah was broken. My heart broke for Isaiah. I was excited, though, that I got to oversee his case again, though. I was excited that I was going to be placed in his life, and I was excited for the foster home that he was going to. Immediately, this foster parent saw the brokenness in Isaiah and loved on him. She cared about him, consistently reminding him that I'm here for you, I love you, I'm not gonna give up on you. Isaiah would often ask questions in the previous foster home and when he first came to this newer foster home, such as, do you love me, mommy? Are you gonna leave me, mommy? And those questions I heard even him ask in my presence broke my heart. He had abandonment issues. He was afraid that people were going to give up on him. It was after 6 months that I noticed a dramatic change in Isaiah. The foster mother continually loved him, continually was there for him, and built in him resiliency. She built in him coping mechanisms. She taught him that no matter what happens, she's not gonna leave him. I've never in my experience seen such a dramatic change. I've never seen such a dramatic transformation in a child, all based on a consistent, loving relationship. Isaiah was no longer diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. That diagnosis went away. He no longer asked the questions of, are you gonna leave me? He no longer would scream at loud noises. He looked happier, he looked healthier. He was a different child. It was then that I knew that the power of relationships is real, and that the power of relationships can heal trauma, can prevent and even reverse the effects that trauma has on a child. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about some really great topics. Today we're going to discuss how building the relational ladder with foster youth and homeless youth, and really any youth that has experienced trauma. And we're going to talk about the healing power of consistent, loving, and stable relationships. We're also going to navigate how trauma affects our minds and our bodies, and how relationships can prevent and even reverse those negative effects. Last, I want to discuss how to build a tribe. Everyone here, I'm sure, is really excited to learn about all these different resources and implement them with the youth that we work with. And it's so important and so critical that we have a tribe of resources around us so we can better help our students that we work with. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the nonprofit Give Something Back that I work for that incorporates a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today, and I'm super proud to be a part of that team. I came across this video, and it was really silly, and at first I was like, okay, but as I'm preparing for this presentation, I thought this is really actually perfect. So I want to take a look together and we'll discuss after. So I really thought that video was just so perfect for this presentation, because I feel like if trauma were to look like something, I feel like trauma would look like a nail in the head. And that's how I now visualize a person going through a trauma response, or somebody who's been upset or in pain. In this video, it's geared towards communication with a husband and a wife, and the wife basically explaining to the husband, I'm in pain, I'm frustrated, I'm obviously heightened, and I'm under stress, and I just need you to listen and not try to solve the problem. And the man would be like the person who works with the youth, and the woman would be like the youth that we work with. So I envision the man as if an educator, like one of ourselves, somebody who's working with youth that have experienced trauma. And the woman is the youth going through something, going through a hard time. And he wants to offer solutions, and she just wants to be heard. And she's communicating her pain. And I feel like oftentimes youth communicate their pain and their trauma through their words and their actions. And oftentimes they're negative words and their negative actions and their frustrations. And I feel like oftentimes all we want to do is be heard. I feel like trauma is the youth or any person's pain. It's those negative actions and those negative words. And unfortunately, trauma can't be seen. It's not like a broken bone. When we break our arm, we know when we see a person that's in a cast or a sling, we know their bone has been broken. They've been injured. And we work with them, and we cater to their needs because we know they're injured. However, we can't see trauma. We can't see it. But now every time I work with a youth that is having a trauma response, if they're yelling, if they're throwing something, if they storm out of a room, if they are impulsive, if they're unable to focus, if I notice that they're getting heightened, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to let myself get heightened. I'm going to understand that there is something there. There is pain behind the actions. It's their wounds. And I'm going to visualize that nail. As silly as that video was, it honestly now is going to make me think that way. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys because I thought it was a really good visual. So now that we've talked about what trauma may look like, now that we've talked about that trauma can be outbursts, yelling, hitting, hopefully not somebody, but sometimes that happens. I want to talk a little bit of how trauma affects our cognitive functioning, our social emotional development, our mental health, and our physical health. And I've sat in on many of the breakout sessions and keynote speakers today, and ACEs has been a hot topic because it is profound and it is groundbreaking in adverse childhood experiences and how that can negatively affect our outcomes as adults. And so I want to just really quickly, briefly touch on the adverse childhood experience study. It was one of the biggest studies done to discover these types of outcomes due to adverse childhood experiences. So in 1995, Dr. Folletti from Kaiser Permanente conducted one of the largest investigations of child abuse and how that will affect outcomes as adults. 17,000 people participated and filled out a confidential optional survey. And the findings were astonishing. The findings showed that with the higher number of ACEs, where the outcomes as adults, health, cognitive development are at risk. And so there are certain populations that are more susceptible to having higher number of ACEs. People that are in social and economic conditions, lower socioeconomic conditions, and foster youth and homeless youth fall into that category of having higher number of ACEs. The types of adverse childhood experiences that were surveyed for during this study that took place in the child's home were domestic violence, substance abuse, mental illness, divorce or separation of parents, incarceration of a parent, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, emotional and physical neglect. And according to the ACE study, youth that have experienced high numbers of ACEs have a strong influence for high-risk behaviors such as smoking, alcohol abuse, use of illicit drugs, sexual behavior, mental illness, stability of relationships, homelessness, and they also are at higher risk for health issues such as heart disease, chronic lung disease, chronic liver disease, and suicide. What really baffled my mind was that children with 4 or more ACEs are 4.5 times more likely to develop depression. They're 3 times more likely to develop chronic lung disease, and they're 14 times more likely to attempt suicide. Dr. Robert Black, former president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, said, "Adverse childhood experiences are the single greatest unaddressed public health threat facing our nation." That's powerful. And I feel like knowledge is power. When we know better, we should do better. We do. Everyone here at this conference, we're learning the same thing. And the theme that I'm seeing is adverse childhood experiences, trauma, how it affects our learning, how it affects our health. And the big buzzwords right now are trauma-informed education, trauma-informed medical care. And it's so true because we come with that. Many of us have experienced these adverse childhood experiences of our own. And so it does affect us even whether we know it or not. And so I think it's so important that we really take in consideration the effects that ACEs have. And now that we know that these things will happen, these negative effects can happen to us as adults. Homeless youth and foster youth are at high risk of ACEs. And the really great, cool news that I find fascinating is that studies show that the antidote for adverse childhood experience outcomes, the negative outcomes, is having a consistent, caring adult, even if it's not their caregiver. That has shown to prevent and reverse the effects of adverse childhood experiences. To have somebody to lean on, to have somebody to go to when trauma occurs is so important in building resiliency. I was in a training one time, and it was a trauma training, and they did a really neat illustration of a cup and water. And basically what they said was every time a child or a youth experienced trauma, that water gets put into the cup. And every time a loving, caring adult comes alongside them to offer support and to teach coping skills and to teach resiliency and to really come alongside them to just love on them and be there for them, water is taken out of that cup. So when a child does not have that person to go to when times get hard, when trauma happens, that cup gets filled up and filled up with water, and it eventually overflows. When it overflows, youth are unable to cope. They're less likely to learn resiliency, and they're more likely to fall victim to these horrible statistics. And the great news is, folks, and everyone that works with youth, is we have the power just to be in relationship with the students, the youth that we work with, that we have the power to be that consistent, loving adult for our youth to lean on, to go to when times get hard. We can be the person to empty out the water and leave room for youth to surface and take a deep breath. I really love this quote that I found while putting this presentation together, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. To have one consistent, caring adult in the life of a child, even if it's not a caregiver or parent, is one of the most beneficial characteristics of building resilience. And I just found that to be so powerful, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So now I want to touch a little bit on the science behind trauma. This is my favorite topic, and I get super intrigued by it. You can ask my husband. I'm constantly talking about, did you know this? And did you know that the science and that trauma does this? And he's like, yeah. But I love this stuff because I feel like it is so profound. And I never knew how big of an impact trauma had on our physical bodies and our health until a few years ago when I really started to do my research on adverse childhood experiences and trauma and how that affects our actual health. It affects our bodies, our organs. And so I just want to take a quick little look at the science behind trauma. And so I want to talk about the autonomic nervous system. It's also called the involuntary nervous system, which I find interesting. It's a system which regulates many body systems without our conscious direction. So we're not telling our body, hey, heart, beat slower. Hey, heart, beat faster. It's involuntary. So there's a parasympathetic nervous system, and this is when our body is in a calm state. We have a slower heart rate, our digestive tract and our other organs are working properly, and we're in a Zen sort of state. Not only are our organs, but our biggest, our most valuable, I think, well, maybe not the most valuable, but a pretty big organ, our brain, is also, very important organ, is also working properly. Our brain is at its optimal performance when we're in the parasympathetic nervous system. And the way I remember parasympathetic is P, peace. Parasympathetic means we're in a peaceful state, so PEP. That's how I remember parasympathetic. But this is when youth or anybody, adults, all humans, are in a state where our upper brain is firing. Our higher level of thinking is there. We're able to make complex decisions, rational thought. This is our learning brain when we're in our parasympathetic nervous system. Then we also have our sympathetic nervous system. And this is when our body is in a stress mode. So I always think and remember sympathetic, sympathetic stress. That's how I remember it. And this is when our body is in an aroused state. We are facing a threatening situation and our heart rate accelerates, our digestive tract and other organs get ready to prepare for survival and to get out of this threatening situation. We go into a fight, flight, or freeze state. And I know I've heard more breakouts talking about this as well. And it's true. This is involuntary. We don't have control over that. This is when we feel threatened. We feel like we need to be in survival mode. So our prefrontal cortex, the upstairs brain, gets shut down. That is no longer needed. We're in survival mode. We're in our bottom brain. We're in our lower brain. This is our survival brain. And this is what tells us to get out of the situation. We're going to fight, flight, or freeze. This is not a good time to have a conversation about a behavior. This is not a good time to engage a student in a learning situation. This is a time to incorporate tools that I'm hopeful we can use as people that work with youth, especially youth that we know have experienced trauma, to get them back into their learning brain. Because where they're in this state, they are not going to retain information, they're not going to listen, and their heart rate, their cortisol levels go up, their adrenaline goes up, they are in survival mode. And so I look at this as being a good thing at times. The sympathetic nervous system is not a horrible thing. It's good for survival. If we're on a hike and we come across a rattlesnake, we want to get out of that situation as fast as we can. Our sympathetic nervous system fires and we are out. We're like, hey, fight, flight, or freeze. I don't want to get bit by the snake. I got to get out of this situation. And that's great. That's what it's there for. That's what we have a sympathetic nervous system for, to help us out in scary, threatening situations. The issue happens when you see snakes all too often, and the brains have developed sensory cues such as sounds, smells, and environmental factors that are associated with where the snakes are. So even if it's in a classroom or if it's at an event or in an office, even when there's no snakes around, if the youth observe any sensory that is associated with where they've seen or have experienced snakes, they may have a trauma response. They may act out. They may go into a sympathetic nervous system state where they're in a fight, flight, or freeze mode. They think they see a snake, but it's just a stick. The A study revealed that repeated sympathetic arousal leads to health issues and cognitive delay and social emotional delay. And it makes sense. If the sympathetic nervous system causes our organs to be in a stressful mode, to work harder, to survive, that puts a lot of stress on our organs. And when they're constantly being activated and constantly under that stress, it's going to take a toll on our bodies. And if our upper brain and the ladder to the upper brain is not being stimulated, if we're constantly getting that gate put up because we're in our lower survival brain and we're not accessing our upper upstairs brain, where rational thought is learned and where a higher level of thinking is learned, then no wonder we struggle and have difficulties in those areas when we have higher levels of trauma, higher adverse childhood experiences. The pathways haven't been built. It's difficult for those pathways to be built when it's constantly being shut down. Studies also show that it takes 8 to 10 minutes for our cortisol and adrenaline levels to come back down to normal, and for our bodies to return to a parasympathetic, peaceful state. So 8 to 10 minutes, we need to give youth that we work with a little break to just get themselves regulated, to get themselves back into their upper brain so we can engage them, so we can have a conversation with them and talk about what really happened. But I encourage us as people that work with youth to really take that into consideration when we see a student heightened and in their survival brain, that we give them that time to decompress and to get back to normal levels. And that also, by doing that, is when we teach students that we can take a break and get back to that parasympathetic state, that peaceful state, it also lessens the harsh effects on our bodies and our health. because we're learning to decompress quicker, and we're making less damage on our bodies. So I really encourage us to really incorporate that, because that's something new that I've learned. Another thing that really helps with getting students back into a parasympathetic nervous system is mindfulness and breathing techniques. And that's something that I have started to use myself and with students that I work with that are experiencing a trauma experience and having a stress response to something. I'm like, okay, let's take an 8 to 10 minute break. I try to teach them, and in our Give Something Back program, we try to teach them, and we talk a lot about mindfulness and breathing techniques, because it's so important to get our bodies back into that parasympathetic state. And foster youth fall into these high levels of ACEs, and their statistics, unfortunately, are not where I think any of us want them to be. They're getting better, and we're working harder to incorporate multiple resources and interventions for foster youth and homeless youth. But I just want to give a couple statistics on foster youth and homeless youth. Homeless youth are 3 times more likely to be placed in special education programs. They're 4 times more likely to drop out of school. They're 8 times more likely to repeat grades. And foster youth, 24% will not have a high school diploma or GED. That's 3 times more the general population. Only 3% will get a 2 or 4 year college degree. That's 10 times lower than the general population. And 29% will be unable to pay rent. That's 4 times the general population, oftentimes leaving them homeless. And it is my opinion that adverse childhood experiences are a direct correlation to these statistics that we're seeing here. Adverse childhood experiences are a direct correlation to these. And I feel like that is huge. And knowing that and knowing what ACEs does, especially to foster youth and homeless youth, because they don't have that family member or caring adult in their life, is huge. And so I encourage us to build those relational ladders, those relationships with these youth to reach their full potential and prevent and reverse the effects trauma has on their whole being, and most of all, to beat these odds. And so I know I said relational ladder, what does the relational ladder look like? And I wanted to just talk, really just say this whole slide, because I love every single word of it. And I think it's super important to, for me, it was more of a visual of what building the relational ladder looks like and how that affects our brain. And so I'm just going to read this slide to you guys. The mistake many of us make is trying a left-brained intervention, asking a child to reason or problem solve when what's really called for is a right brain connection. I see you, I hear you, I care about you. As we work with children, we need to continually ask ourselves, am I engaging the upstairs brain, or am I triggering the downstairs brain? As adults, we are like the brain's staircase carpenters. It is up to us to make sure that staircase is working. The better we are able to understand this concept, the better we can help kids during stressful situations and also during calm, character building times. And so I really love that visual. It's basically saying, are we, as the adults working with these youth, and I'm speaking more of like junior high, high school, college age students, are we, and even elementary, are we triggering or are we calming? And like I said before, when we know that a child is in a stress response situation, when they're acting out, when they're clearly under something, when the pain is there, when you see the nail in the head, are we utilizing the techniques to get them back down into the parasympathetic nervous system? Are we getting them back into the learning brain? Because if not, if Johnny is having a response to something stressful and we correct him, we punish him, it's going to trigger that child even more. He's not understanding what he is doing is wrong. He's not hearing you. He is in his lower brain. He's in his downstairs brain. And so we need to build that relational ladder and implement those techniques to build that ladder from the downstairs brain to the upstairs brain. And that takes time, and that takes building a relationship and setting up a plan for a student to build that staircase. But we have that power. And so I really love this visual, and it helps me strive. It helps me as a person who works with youth strive to build those relationships with the youth I work with, because I know they've been through trauma. And I know that by building the relational ladder, I am also helping build the ladder to the upstairs brain, where they can make better decisions, they will learn more, and have a better cognitive and physical health outcomes. And so how do we build this relational ladder? And this is something that I've kind of learned, and this is just from my experience working with youth for 12 years now, that these are some of the things that I have sort of taken away that I feel are important. And so I just wanted to share them with you. The most important thing I feel like we can do is be a stable and caring adult. We've seen that adverse childhood experience affect our cognitive development, our social emotional development, our mental health. It affects our physical health. We've seen that. And we also know that having and being a caring, a stable adult in the life can reverse and prevent those. So that is the number one thing we can do, is be that stable, consistent, caring adult in a child's life. Follow through and follow up is so important. And I feel like this can make or break the relational the relational ladder, that because they've been given up on so many times. A lot of these youth, they've been given 7-day notices and placed in 5 different foster homes, and they've had their hearts broken by empty promises. And as a consistent, caring adult, it's our job to follow through on what we say we're going to do. For instance, if I know a student is struggling with food and needs help and assistance, I'm going to reach out to my tribe, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, of our partnerships and the people that we know, the resources that we have. And I'm going to give that child a resource. I'm going to give that child a number or a website or someone to contact at a certain place that I know, that I'm partners with, that I've established a relationship with. And I'm going to give them that number. I'm going to say, you need to go here. There's a food pantry, and we're going to get you fixed up with some food. You're not going to go hungry. But I'm not just going to stop there. I'm not just going to follow through with that. I'm not just going to do that. I'm going to follow up as well. The next day, I'm going to call that student into my office, or call that student, or text that student. And I'm going to say, hey, how did it go? Did you get the food? Did you get what you needed? Because then we know that we've actually solved the issue for that moment. That we didn't just follow through, but we also followed up. And that means so much to youth when we actually follow up, because sometimes we give them a resource and it just maybe goes to the wayside. Maybe they don't use it. So it's so important, I've learned, to follow up. Another thing I've learned is to dig deeper. And this sometimes takes time. I feel like sometimes we are working with youth and it takes time to build that relationship. But there's one situation I want to talk about in particular that actually just recently happened, where I did dig deeper, and it took some time, but I got to the bottom line of what was really going on because I asked a little more questions. I dug a little deeper. So there was a foster youth that I work with, and she was always in her room, and I would check in weekly with her, and I'd say, well, why are you always in your room? You need to go get outside, get some fresh air, go hang out with the foster family, watch movies together. And she would just say, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go outside with everybody. I want to be in my room. I just want to be in my room. And I didn't like that. It didn't sit well with me. So I said, honey, it's not good. You need to get out. What's going on? And for a moment, though, maybe like the first time she told me, I was like, she's just a teenager. This is what teenagers do. They don't want to be around people. But I just knew there was something more there. And even still, that's not how I roll. We don't stay in our room all day long. We need to be engaged with people and their family. And I just didn't like it. So a couple visits later, I kept asking the question, and she finally opened up to me. And this took time of me investing in her and getting to know her more. And she likes makeup, so I got her some makeup stuff, and I gave her resources. She wants to be an advocate for foster youth, so I connected her with somebody who I knew could help her out with that. And so I think she knew that I wasn't just another social worker coming into her life, but it took time. It took time. And so she finally told me that she doesn't go out of her room because the foster parent has made her feel like she's being inappropriate with the males in the home, such as the foster dad and the foster parent's adult sons and the other male foster youth in the home. So the foster parent was using probably not the best verbiage to communicate to the child that she presented herself in a provocative way and was inappropriate. And she immediately shut down. She shut down because she was scared. She didn't want to get moved, because she didn't want, so she just stayed in her room. She thought, I'm just going to steer clear, be safe, stay in my room and not cause any problems. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. So I appreciated her telling me, and I had a good conversation with the foster parent about using appropriate language, how to communicate her concerns in a nice, productive, caring, loving way. and try to mend the gap of communication that was happening there. And it helped. It did. The child and the foster parent the foster parent engaged more with the foster youth, and the foster youth slowly but surely started coming out of the room more. And I feel like their communication skills really improved after that situation. But I had to dig deeper. I had to keep trying to figure out what was going on. And I didn't just nod and say, I'm going to leave it at that. I pressed on and kept pushing deeper. And I encourage us to do that. If we ever are presented with a situation where it just doesn't seem right, and maybe we can ask more questions, I encourage us to do that, because just maybe we'll find out something more that we didn't know was there, and we can really help in a big way. Another thing that I wanted to mention was to listen more and try not to fix everything, because that's what we do. We're people that work with youth. We want to fix any issue with students in pain. We want to fix it. But like in the video, she just wanted to be heard. She was saying she was in pain, and he's like, I have the perfect solution. I can help you. Just take it out. And she was like, just hear me, you're not listening, you know? And so sometimes we just need to be mindful of the pain, but just be somebody to listen. Just be a sounding board. Just be that person they can lean on. Be that person that will give them a hug and say, I'm here for you, and I'm sorry that you're going through this pain. But I find that youth really, really respond to that in a big way, of just being that person who listens more and doesn't try to fix everything. And they'll ask us when they want our opinions. And obviously, if they're in a threatening situation for themselves or others, we need to intervene. But I'm talking about other times where we can just listen and be a sounding board for them. And like I mentioned before, and I won't go into details, 10-minute cool down, I try to use all the time. Mindfulness, we try to use with the give something back foundation that I work for. We really try to incorporate those things. And adequate sleep is so important. If we notice a student is not going to bed, which a lot of kids are not going to bed until 2 in the morning. I work with a lot of foster youth and teens, and especially like young adults, transitioning adults, and high schoolers. Like, what are you doing? Go to sleep. It's like 2 a.m. So I'm noticing that they're not sleeping. Their whole sleeping schedule is off. And I know that takes a toll on them as well. Having good nutrition, exercise, and healthy interactions. And exercise is huge too, because it releases all those good chemicals that we need, the endorphins. So if I have youth that come to me, that's my biggest thing is, are you eating a balanced meal, and are you exercising? And not exercising to get in shape, but exercising for our mental health. And even as adults, that is one of my biggest things. When I'm feeling stressed, I'm going for a run and I feel better. So exercise is really important to encourage students to do that are experiencing trauma or under a lot of stress. I also really love this quote, and I wanted to read it too, because I feel like it's so perfect for today and this presentation. Relationships are the agents of change, and the most powerful therapy is human love. I just think and sit with that for a minute, because it's like the most powerful therapy is human love. Wow. I truly feel like we were born to be in relationship with others. And so I just love that so much. One of the biggest factors that I feel is really important in assisting and helping youth, especially foster youth and homeless youth, is building a tribe. And I feel like we can't do this job alone. We need a tribe behind us to help us provide resources that maybe the organization we work for can't provide. Maybe we need hygiene kits, but we don't have hygiene kits, but I know they have hygiene kits. So I'm gonna reach out to them because this child needs one. And building those partnerships and those relationships with county offices or community-based organizations are so crucial. I've noticed that as I work with Give Something Back, that's been one of my biggest tasks, I feel, is learning all the resources. I've always been so like, every time I go I sit in on the foster youth and homeless youth advisory board meetings for San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. And every time I go there monthly, I'm blown away at all the resources that are given out to us to help these youth. So I take those, I put them in my pocket, and I use them with the youth. Oh, you need this? I know the right person. I have a binder. Give Back has created a binder where we collect all of our resources. So if a student is in need of something, we know exactly where to go. So I encourage us to gather all the resources we can, sit in on any county foster youth and homeless youth task force, contact your county and find out where and when they are and be there. I encourage us to attend webinars. They're free and their convenience. And now with coronavirus happening, I feel like one of the perks of it, there's not many, but one of the perks of it is that we're able to sit in on webinars that in conferences virtually that maybe take place far away that we wouldn't otherwise be able to go to. And every time I sit in on one, I always learn something new. I always learn of a new resource or a new evidence-based interventions for foster youth and homeless youth. And so I encourage us to constantly be doing that and always just obviously learning more and growing and wanting to just build that tribe, because having a tribe is so important when working with especially foster youth and homeless youth. There was one story that sticks out in my mind of having a tribe and how it saved a situation. It saved a student from being homeless potentially. We work with 3 colleges in California that give something back, mentorship program that I work for. And we cover room, board, and tuition, but we don't cover housing in the summertime. And so this particular student did not have housing in the summertime. And right before summer hit, he said, Jessica, I thought I had housing, but I don't have housing anymore, and I'm gonna be homeless. And I said, no, you're not gonna be homeless. We're gonna figure this out. And so basically what I did was I reached out to San Bernardino County Schools, yay! And we put our heads together and we found a resource. We found a private donor for this student. He was able to get his summer housing paid for and he did not end up homeless. And so that is just one example of many that I feel we can utilize our tribe to really save a student. So that story was so neat and it was so exciting for all of us when we were able to make that happen for that student. I wanted to give you guys these links. If you wanted to learn more about the information I'm presenting on, check these links out. They're really informational videos that I really found helpful. So check those out. And now I want to talk a little bit about the nonprofit that I work for that incorporates all the things I just talked about building the relational ladder, understanding trauma-informed care, and all of our staff are trauma-informed trained because we know what trauma can do to youth's brains, and we understand that building that relationship is the most important thing we can do. And so I wanted to start off by sharing this video with you.
We are a give back family.
Tough times never last, but tough people do.
Believe in yourself.
We are standing with you.
We are here for you. You are brave and courageous.
We are always thinking of you.
This will pass, and we will be together again soon.
We are in this together.
This is your tribe.
And the best is yet to come.
We'll be standing with you always.
Our tribe will stick together.
Thank you for always making sure we are holding each other up as a family.
I appreciate you guys for investing so much of yourselves into us. There's nothing that I wouldn't do for you.
Thank you for all the source of family you guys have given us.
I love and appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know.
Give back. You're the best.
Thank you for all that you guys do.
I love you all.
We can't wait to see you again.
Every time I watch that video, I get teary-eyed. So that video was created for our students during the heart of coronavirus, when we had the stay-at-home orders and we couldn't see our scholars. We had to cancel, like most of us, all of our in-person programming and turn everything virtual. And we just wanted our scholars to know we're here for you, we love you, and we're gonna be together again, and we're gonna get through this together. The really neat part about that video is that our videographer, who has also established some really great relationships with our scholars, reached out to some of our students and asked them to say some words about the staff at Give Back. We did not know this was happening. This was a surprise to the staff. And their words touched my heart, all of our hearts. I can probably speak for all of us so deeply, because we invest so much of ourselves into these students, but because we want to, because this is, it's our passion. It's what we were born to do. We love on our students so much. And for them to feel it and then say those things just reassures us that we're doing the right thing. It reassures us that this is what it's all about. These students feel it. And that makes our program, in my opinion, just so special. We call ourselves the Give Back family because we truly feel like that. So Give Something Back was established in 2003, and we're national. We're in 7 states and 29 colleges. Our founder is Bob Carr. He started off receiving a scholarship from in high school going into college. He received a $250 scholarship, and it meant everything to him because he thought to himself, somebody believes in me enough to give me money to go to college to better myself. And so he did. He went to college. He grew up in an abusive family, and he faced a lot of adverse situations. And so he went to college and he kicked butt. He thrived. He went into computer programming, which at the time was like a new thing. It was innovative. It was groundbreaking. And basically he became a pioneer in the POS system, the payments. Oh gosh, I'm going to get so in trouble for not knowing. Where you swipe your card and you insert it to take payments. And he became a pioneer in that industry. And he became a billionaire with a B and wanted to give back. So he started a scholarship mentorship program that served youth that have also faced hardships and trials. And we are so excited to be a part of this a nonprofit, Give Something Back, because it truly changes students' lives. So what Bob Carr does is he partners with colleges around the nation. And in California, he partners with 3 colleges, Cal State San Bernardino, University of Laverne, and Chapman University. And he gives those colleges $1 million each. And that buys 50 spots at those colleges. So these students have prepaid scholarships. They're paid. If Give Back goes away, those scholarships remain, and they're going to have room, board, and tuition and general fees paid for 4 years. This program is truly amazing. And Bob Carr is a wonderful man. I'm so excited that I get to work in this with this organization. So Give Something Back is not only a scholarship program, but we're also a mentorship program. We start recruiting students in the 8th grade, but we accept students anywhere from the 8th grade to the 12th grade. And I know here it says we start at a 2.5, but we're even getting lower. We're starting a CTE track, which we're really excited about. And so we're going to be lowering the GPA for consideration into our program to a 2.0 to a 3.0. We serve 3 groups primarily: foster youth, homeless youth, and the incarceration of a parent. And this could be currently or previously. The students need to be Pell Grant eligible at the time they fill out their FAFSA their senior year of high school. If a student is in foster care anytime after their 13th birthday, they're automatically Pell Grant eligible. And if they're unaccompanied at the time that they fill out their FAFSA, they're also automatically Pell Grant eligible. Any other student that falls in the gray area, we go off of the parent or caregiver's W-2 form, but oftentimes the students that we serve are Pell Grant eligible and fit that criteria. Give Something Back is more than a scholarship. Our programming and our family vibe really set us apart, I feel, from a lot of programs. And I know that many of the programs that are listening on here also know that building relationships are so huge in doing this too. And I applaud you because that is so important. Creating that family vibe and that relationship is so, so crucial. And it truly is our foundation. So Give Something Back has a great program, and we give each of the students that are in our program a student coach. We call them student coaches or student mentors, and they meet with our students once a month in person. And right now we're doing Zoom meetings, and then another time during the month via text, email, phone call to check in on our students and make sure they're doing well. Especially during this time, we're giving them a lot of extra love and attention, making sure their mental health is okay, that they have everything that they need to be successful with distance learning and being at home a lot. So we're really excited about our mentorship program. Our staff is amazing. We have staff that has been county social workers, special education teachers, a forensic pediatrician. Our executive director, Dr. Amy Young, some of you may know her. She is a forensic pediatrician and does child abuse cases. And oftentimes the students or the young people that she works with end up in foster care. So she has a lot of experience working with abused children that have experienced a lot of trauma. I was a school counselor in my early career, and then I transitioned to being a agency social worker for foster family agencies, and now I'm here at Give Back. And so we're so excited to put on such great programming for our students. We hold Scholar Saturdays, and those take place from September to May. And those are the second Saturdays of each month. We do lots of fun programming. We do college readiness, soft skills. We do life skills. We talk about resiliency, mental health, social media, how to do your laundry, how to text message and email properly, how to get ready for college, writing their program statements and editing and revising them, preparing them for the college admission process. We also have a Scholar Summer program, which last year was held at Cal State San Bernardino for 4 nights and 5 days. It was a full residential program. Our 9th graders through our college age students participated, and we had SAT prep. We had a robotics person come in and build really cool robots. We had awesome swag. We also had a mindfulness coach come from University of Laverne and do a really great presentation on mindfulness and how to get our nervous system back into that parasympathetic state that we talked about earlier. We had an art class. And of course, we ended the nights with some fun activities like swimming and a DJ glow party and a really awesome talent show that our students put on. And our theme was Find Your Tribe. And so the students had to come up with a really great performance on what it means to find your tribe and how to be there for each other and how to build each other up. So that was a really magical time. And if you want to follow us on YouTube, Give Something Back is on YouTube. Our videos are on there and you'll see the summer program. It's very special. It was one of the specialist times that we've experienced, I think, with all of our group. We also have a Scholar Dinner in August. And this is a time that we really wine and dine our students, the scholars that are in our program. We have a sit-down dinner at the DoubleTree Hotel in Claremont. We have a photo booth, and our founder, Bob Carr, comes and really praises our students and says, congratulations, you did it. You guys are awesome, and we're here for you, and we love you. It's also a time that we encourage our students to thank Bob because he is the person making this possible for them financially and creating this amazing mentorship program. So it's really a time to express our gratitude to Bob as well for the program that he has created. We're really, really excited. We also have a drop-in center in Loma Linda. We have a new office. It's in the RICA Center, in Loma Linda Medical Offices, the Resiliency Institute for Childhood Experiences. Dr. Young oversees all that, our executive director, and we're going to be in the upstairs building. We have hygiene kits now. We're going to have a food pantry. We have school supplies, computers, charging stations, printers, anything a student may need that may not have those resources at home. We are trying to equip ourselves to have those resources. And of course, our tribe, our community-based organizations, our partners, we have all those resources as well. So we're really excited about our drop-in center. The really cool thing about it is if we have foster youth in our program, actually any youth that are in our program that need medical care or mental health services downstairs, we're going to be able to provide those services to them as well. So that's really exciting news. The 3 colleges that I said we partner with, we have right now 12 scholars at Cal State San Bernardino on a full ride scholarship, room, board, and tuition for 4 years. They have housing, and at Cal State, they have housing year round. Our foster youth in the Renaissance program have housing year round. At University of Laverne, we have 6 students on a full ride scholarship, and we have 19 students at Chapman. And as you know, Chapman and University of Laverne are private schools. They're expensive. We cover their room, board, and tuition and general fees for 4 years at those colleges. Those colleges wanted to diversify their campus and partnered with Give Something Back, knowing that they were making accessible their education to foster youth and homeless youth. Youth that otherwise would not go to those colleges because they're so expensive. So we're really, really proud of that. And we're excited that we have so many students on those campuses. We also have student coaches overseeing our college students. They don't go away. And we try to keep our student coaches the same because we know that there's been inconsistency with these students' lives of being changed and moved and 7-day notices and the instability of life. So our main goal is to keep our student coaches consistent with our students, at least for the 4 years in high school and hopefully into college. But if not, we have student coaches overseeing each of our college campuses, checking in with our college students monthly, ensuring that they have everything that they need. We have 150 spots in our program, and we have 77 scholars in our program right now. So we are looking and we are on the hunt for 73 more students to fill our spots to get us to 150. Give Something Back is national, like I said. We're in 7 states and we're in 29 colleges. And so we're really excited that California, as 3 years ago, became part of the Give Back tribe nationally. Give Something Back has really amazing statistics, and I'm blown away at how great they are. We have a 90% scholar college graduation rate. When we saw earlier, foster youth have a 3% graduation rate from college, 90%. We have 1,500 scholarships that have already been funded, our prepaid scholarships, 1,500 nationwide. We have a 100% employment rate for our Give Back alumni. You hear oftentimes foster youth and homeless youth struggle with finding employment. At Give Something Back, there's a 100% employment rate. That is huge to me. I feel like these stats, right, for Give Something Back, the reason that they're so great is because our foundation is building relationships, is because we know the importance of having these consistent, loving relationships. We are changing the trajectory of these children's lives. And I know many of you guys working with youth that are on this webinar, on this platform right now, this breakout session, are doing the same thing. So I applaud you. Pat yourself on the back because you are truly changing lives. By building those relationships, you are building the ladder to the upstairs brain. You are changing, you are breaking cycles, and you are changing their life, their health outcomes, their cognitive development, their social emotional development, their mental health. So I congratulate you guys. Just like the foster mother changed Isaiah's life with her loving, consistent relationship, so are we. We can build the relational ladder. When we build the relational ladder, we're building the ladder from the downstairs brain to the upstairs brain, and we are building resilience. And so I just wanted to say that it has been a pleasure speaking to you guys, and I'm so excited. I'm 6 minutes under. Woo! I thought I was going to be over, so I'm proud of that. I have had a great time presenting to you guys. This slide right here is super important. If you have any students that you feel fit the bill for our program, for our mentorship scholarship program, 8th graders through 12th graders, we're pushing hard for 8th and 9th graders that have experienced foster care, homelessness, or the incarceration of a parent. Please use this PowerPoint, download this PowerPoint, and scan that QR code. That QR code will take you directly to our informational video and our eligibility form. You can sit with the student you work with, you can send it to their caregiver. And again, this is a follow through and follow up thing. If I send it to caregivers, I'm always calling maybe a couple days later, hey, did you fill out that eligibility form? Making sure that they really did it. So I encourage you to use this QR code and refer students to us. Like I said, we primarily work with Southern California. And so students will need to be able to come to our programming at Cal State San Bernardino. Right now it is virtually, all of our programming is virtual, but we're hopeful we'll be able to go back into person soon. So again, use that QR code, and we're super excited to get referrals from you guys. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. These are our emails. We have an awesome Director of Regional Operations, Christine Brown. Dr. Amy Young is our Executive Director. I'm the Manager of Admissions and Student Services, and we've added Amber Young onto our Director team. And so we're really excited to have such a growing team. And so reach out to us with any questions. Let me see if I have any questions here. I'm new to this platform, so bear with me. The student lives in the high desert and plans to attend Cal State San Bernardino. Can they access your program? Yes, if they're in high school still. So if they're still in high school, please have them fill out or watch our video with that QR code and fill out our eligibility form. We're pushing hard for 8th and 9th graders, but we will take students all the way up to the 12th grade. They just have to be in high school. Once they're in college, unfortunately, the way our program is set up, we need to get them while they're in high school. Thanks for saying the tribe. That you like that verbiage, Chelsea. I appreciate that. Is there a referral form available to refer you to this person? Yes, that QR code. Use that QR code to refer any students to our program. Thank you, Talise. I appreciate it. I'm getting a lot of people asking about how to apply, and I'm sure I answered that question already with the QR code. The age group is 8th grade through 12th grade to refer students to our program, and then we service the students all the way until they graduate college. We will be at their college graduation, cheering them on. My degree, I have my bachelor's degree in psychology. I have my master's degree in educational counseling with a PPS credential. So that from Azusa Pacific University. The QR code, I sure can. Put that up again. I have someone asking how they volunteer. I love that. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Bunny. I appreciate your kind words. If you would like to volunteer, I encourage you guys to go onto our website, www.giveback.ngo. However, you can also email me and I can send you the direct link to our volunteer mentor form, and I can give that to you guys. Again, I'm so excited to be here and be able to present. So thank you so much for listening in. You guys have a great day.